We're going to proceed with awarding our distinguished alumni who were kind enough to make the trip here. We're going to start with Wael Mabsout. Wael Mabsout is an AUB graduate with a Bachelor in Computer and Communication Engineering and a Master's in Engineering Management. He started his career as a developer for Adobe extensions for the printed press, followed by a short consultancy job before joining the SNS in July 2004 as an operational consultant. Wael quickly proved himself at SNS, and in the supply chain field, he took on different posts at SNS, such as senior consultant, acting technical manager, business development manager, and today leads SNS as operational consultant. He leads the SNS operational consultant team and SNS consultancy division. Throughout more than 17 years at SNS, Wael had the opportunity to work on a variety of projects across many countries, gathering the best practices from around the world. Among them, and notable projects are consultancy for the CERN Institute in Switzerland, where he led the assessment of their full supply chain action and provided actionable recommendations for their logistics to save on costs. He led the implementation of advanced warehouse management system at the largest Pepsi bottling plant worldwide. The WMS was a center of fully automated facilities and connected to more than 7 systems. Wael has leveraged both his technical and operational backgrounds to become a recognizable name in the industry. He helped set up SNS along with fellow senior managers, and he has been key member in their growth in the past 2 decades. Let's welcome Wael Mabsout to the stage.
Allow me also first to thank the engineering department as well for this award, particularly Dr. Madah, and really feel honored to be chosen. So I also want to take this opportunity to thank the people that helped me get to this achievement, starting with my parents, of course, the teachers, doctors, my family, friends and colleagues. But most importantly, I'd like to thank my wife, who stood by me along 17 years of lots of travel and very little time at home. So she took the heavy load that this meant for me to be able to get to where I am today. So ever since I was actually told about the award, I kept thinking what would be the thing to say on the day. And I don't know how, but I stumbled upon a video criticizing people on similar days by when they say, follow your passion. It's a great advice, but very few of us actually have the opportunity to know what they're passionate about at an early age, let alone be able to continue down that path. Myself, I was not dreaming of the day I'll be a consultant for warehousing and supply chain. I didn't even know what supply chain was. I guess till I did my master's in engineering management. But basically, after graduating from engineering with a computer engineering degree and started the first job in software development alongside with my master's in engineering management, I had a bit of experience in quality management consultancy and then my military service, last few people that did that, and then joined SNS back in 2005 in July. At the time, we were 15 consultants. I took on the operational consultant job and actually landed the job at the Green Oval. So I actually met our general manager at the Green Oval. I was looking for a software development job, and he actually talked about what an operational consultant is and a blend of my master's, my degree in engineering, and it was quite sold. So I not only owe AUB my degrees, but even my actual current job of 17 years. As I was told, several different positions at SNS, and because it's almost entire career, I'd like to actually talk a bit of what we do and to explain where I stand. So we're a company specialized in consultancy and implementation of software for supply chain. So basically, we help re-engineer logistics operations, configure best-of-breed software, and help clients manage their operations and reduce their costs. And in 17 years, this field has transformed so many times. Especially recently with global fulfillment, the last 3 years were hectic. COVID may have affected many businesses negatively, but logistics became a key element to success. And we actually increased 20% in revenue year one of COVID. So I could talk a lot about the project or how I got here and the countries I visited. I think SNS, we were 15 consultants, primarily doing projects in Dubai, and even in a small area in Jabal Ali in Dubai. Today we have offices from New York to Australia, and I personally did projects in more than 30 countries throughout my career. But the real thing I wanted to talk about is what got me here. And it's basically no matter what was the job, what was the venture, what was the project, the goal was to always really complete it to the best of my abilities. Our new motto at the company is bring it on, and I really love that. Any challenge, any opportunity. And not just learn about the customer's business or get the project successful, but really what I've discovered is as you go and you travel that much and you meet people, if you learn about their culture, about their country, about their language, it makes a huge difference. We're in business of dealing with people. We actually sell ourselves rather than any other service. So if you take time to really learn about these people and work with them, not just because of the business, they'll actually open doors to you that you didn't think were possible. So when you give time to learn the field, when you accept criticism and you try to work on yourself, you'll excel. And when you excel, well, that took about 15 years of my life to get to where I am, you start enjoying yourself, you start enjoying results, and then you become passionate about what you do. So I haven't followed my passion, but I cannot count the number of customers that said, we've never met someone who can be so passionate about warehousing and software. And yeah, I'm not really passionate about warehousing. I'm passionate about the success and the results we do, the achievements we do. Still go to different countries and realize that when they talk about SNS, when they talk about the small company we started in 2005 that has now exceeded 50 employees and legal entities really spread out, it's always spoken of as a true leader in the field. So basically, I wanted to say, apply yourself, enjoy your success, and when you portray passion about what you do, you'll grab attention and you'll continue to move forward. The other thing that has really been a bit short these days is honesty and integrity in dealings. It sounds cliche, I know, but really what has helped us grow is being straightforward and honest internally. I mean, we had to grow more than threefolds if we weren't transparent among each other, internal, and with our customers, to really tell them we're actually giving you value. And we reject projects where we don't have anything to add. And this is actually, the integrity is what's really got us there despite everything. Thank you for the time. My last advice is just keep sports as part of your routine. No matter what it is, a run, a jog, nothing will take the stress out that you get from clients like a good basketball game at the end of the day. Thank you.
So we continue with the next distinguished alumni. This particular individual is a young distinguished alumni, Dr. Aline Eid. Dr. Aline Eid graduated with an ME from ECE department in 2017. She has then completed her PhD at Georgia Tech and afterwards did a postdoctoral fellowship at MIT. She joined the Electrical Engineering and Computer Science department at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, as an assistant professor the spring of 2023 after a competitive international faculty search. At a young age, Dr. Eid has made significant impact on the scientific community. She contributed to the advancement of technology at the international scale. In addition to her highly impactful and cited papers, Aline received a plethora of awards from IEEE communities, including the microwave theory and techniques and antennas and propagation. Please welcome Aline to the stage.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I want to thank MSFEA for inviting me to be here, and I want to start by thanking Dr. Joseph Constantin and Dr. Youssef Toq for nominating me for this award. I'm very grateful. I'm honored to be in this place today. So let's go ahead and start. So what I want to talk about today is stepping stones to success. I want to talk about my experience, about my academic career path, and about how I used these 5 institutions, actually. They were my stepping stones towards where I am today. So I want to discuss some challenges I faced along the way, lessons I learned, and of course, the success that happened in every step. And I am actually a bit upset that I don't see a lot of students in the audience because most of my presentation is tailored towards students. I have passion towards students, and that's why I'm now a professor. I love research, I love mentoring students, and I love teaching. So I really have a lot of advice in general about how can you achieve a professional success, basically, in your career. So maybe some of you here are undergrads, and you might be thinking, how do I know if I want to pursue a graduate studies, basically, or a graduate career? So now, the alumni, obviously before me, was talking about passion, which is very important. Now, the question is, how do you know that you're passionate? So it could be as simple as you took a class and you enjoyed it a lot. In my case, for example, it's not very difficult if you've taken a class with Dr. Youssef Toq. And you might understand what I'm talking about. I was at NTU, I took classes with him. I fell in love with antennas, microwave circuits. I was like, I need to pursue that. I want to learn more. So if you're there and you want to learn more, that's a good start. Something else is someone sees potential in you. A professor or another PhD student approaches you and says, I think you should pursue graduate studies. In my case, it was Professor Shahwan Khoure, which I'm sure a lot of you here recognize very well. He talked to me after a class at NTU, and he said, do you know about masters at AUB? You might want to pursue that, and I'm very thankful for his advice. Maybe you tried to go to industry, you tried a few jobs here and there, you tried internships, and they were not interesting enough, they weren't cutting edge enough for you, and you want to do research. Are you a kind of person who wants to push the envelope? You've noticed that as you take classes and you do projects, this energizes you, diving into the unknown. So yes, you might want to pursue research. And finally, you might want to work abroad or study abroad. Some countries offers opportunities for researchers like us, so that's something to consider. Now, you have noticed these things, you realize that you want to pursue a graduate degree, so the question is, what steps should you be taking to get there? So my advice is, that's something that AUB offers that I couldn't really take advantage of. I was doing undergrad somewhere else, and I didn't really know much about undergrad research. Dip your toes into doing undergraduate research. This is very important. That's going to give you an idea of what is research. That's going to put you in a laboratory environment, and you could talk with graduate students and understand more what it's like. Something else is seek advice. You really want to reach out to people and ask questions, and I'll be talking a bit about cold emails. Cold emails are not a bad idea. They're actually a very good idea. You might not get responses, that's fine. I'll tell you about a case where I got a response, and that was awesome. So I encourage you to do that. And another thing is read and learn. So when you take a class and you enjoy it a lot, read more about it. Go on Google Scholar and look at more papers. You might realize that you don't actually like it, or you might fall in love with the material and the topic, and you decide that you want to pursue it. So now you finish your bachelor's degree, and you're at your master's level, and you're thinking, how can I get the best out of this? I know that I want to pursue a PhD. What should I do? So the first very important thing when you're doing a research or thesis master is your relationship with your advisor, right? You want to choose your advisor wisely. He or she is the closest connection you have. And if that person, like I was, super blessed, super thankful for Dr. Joseph, I was with someone who's very well known in the field. and someone who has connections. And I have to admit, this has helped me a lot. When I decided to apply for a PhD, Dr. Joseph told me about schools, he told me about advisors he knows around the world, and that was super helpful. Second thing is, your advisor can have all the connections in the world, but if you don't work hard, you're not gonna give your advisor the ammunition to advocate for you. So obviously, you need to work hard and basically make it worthwhile while you're doing your research, try to do a good job. Now, building a good reputation, you want to be that person that people love to work with, love to collaborate with. You want to leave a good mark, so your reputation is your most precious asset. Publications, I cannot highlight this enough. I know it could be hard to publish during your master's. You might be thinking about, how can I publish breakthrough work? But you can. I was lucky to be in a lab where I was able to do that. But if you're not able to be first author on a paper, help out. Because publications matter a lot when you do a master's and apply for a PhD program. Getting good grades is something good, but I wouldn't highlight that you focus. I wouldn't push you to focus mostly on your grades, because when you apply to top rank schools and they look at your application, they're gonna enjoy more seeing that you've had very good publication record compared to your grades. And finally, reach out to people. Here I wanna give an example of Steve Jobs, actually. Some of you might know this story. So Steve Jobs was 12 years old when he was working on a project at school, and he wanted to design a frequency counter. So Steve Jobs realized that the person who has these parts is actually HP. So he found the number of the CEO and founder of HP. He gave him a call, and he was like, I think I need those parts for my school project. The guy gave him the parts, and he also gave him an internship that summer, and that's where everything had started. So you can see the power of reaching out, the power of sending cold emails. It could work. So now I just want to share with you some lessons learned along the way that I believe are applicable for so many cases in your professional career, PhD, postdoc, anywhere you are. First thing, strengthen your presentation and communication skills. I cannot highlight how much this has helped me in my career. This is me right here in my 3-minute thesis competition. I was actually very happy to hear that AUB, I was gonna say, please AUB, MSFEA, push 3-minute thesis competitions. I'm very happy that it's already happening. For those of you who don't know, it's the idea of you presenting your thesis, which is very technical, jargony, nerdy, to a non-technical audience. So you have librarians in the audience, people from poet, completely different, far from engineering. And you have to kind of find a way to explain this to them. So my advice is, you could be the smartest person in the room. You can have the best idea. You could be super creative. If you don't know how to communicate your ideas, nobody's gonna care. No one is going to care. And you're not gonna be memorable. Focus on the idea of making your idea stick. So yes, this is very important. That's me. And if you're wondering why there's a tarantula there on my circuit, that's it. You're curious right now. So please ask me and I'll tell you later. The second thing is build your network and make connections. You are one connection away from realizing your dream, and you don't know it. I'm very thankful again for being able to travel to conferences and meet people. You can see Dr. Joseph next to him in the photo, but on the other side, that's Professor Constantin Balanis. I studied in the book of Balanis, Antanas, for I don't know how many years, and when I saw him at the conference, I couldn't believe my eyes. Like, can I take a photo with that guy? And it happened, so that's awesome. I know I look here like we're on the cover of a fancy magazine. Well, almost. So this was during my PhD. We did some amazing work on 5G as a wireless power grid. So my work was to, as you can see, I'm holding a sticker in my hand. And that sticker, you could really put it anywhere, and you could harvest energy from 5G signals, base stations, to power IoT and sensing devices. So that work got a lot of attention. It was really awesome. And we took these nice photos. Now on this side, there's my advisor that I'm very also thankful for, Professor Manos Tenzeris at Georgia Tech. And on the other side is my colleague and now husband, Jimmy, with whom I worked on this research. Be bold. I talked about being bold. We saw what Steve Jobs did. I just want to share a short story here. So when I decided that I wanted to pursue an academic career, I heard a lot of things. I was sitting on a table at conferences with, actually, the president mentioned Professor Gabriel Urbez. I was sitting with him at a table and with someone else, an established professor from Caltech, and I said, what is your, so I was like seeking advice. What should I do to get an academic career? And the answer was, good luck. So they said, good luck. They said, that was my third year being a PhD student. They said, it's really impossible. Your field could be kind of boring, electromagnetics. You have to change the story. I also heard, do not do a postdoc, which could be a very good advice sometimes. You have to be careful about that. And I'm happy to share some advice regarding that. And also apply to low-ranking schools. Do not shoot for, the top schools in the US. It's going to really be hard. So instead, I sent a cold email to a professor at MIT, which a lot of you will recognize. The professor in the front, the third person from the front right here, is Fadil Adib, who's actually an alumnus who received the Young Distinguished Alumni Award a few years ago. Fadil has this awesome lab, Signal Kinetics Group at the MIT Media Lab. I reached out to him. I told him, this is my research. There were no open positions. He responded. I did an interview. His students interviewed me, and I spent a postdoc last year with them, and I worked on awesome things related to augmented reality and RFIDs, underwater communications. I'm an electromagnetic person, but I started doing underwater acoustic communications, which is an amazing experience. That's something else about diversifying your research during your postdoc that I'm happy also to talk about. Finally, if opportunity knocks, answer. The reason I'm saying this is when I applied to University of Michigan for a faculty position, that wasn't the year I was going to apply for a faculty position. I was actually going to apply by the end of my postdoc. But I saw this opportunity. My advisor sent it to me. And I said no at the beginning. I said, I'm not ready. No, let's do it next year. And then I applied, and I got it. And I'm very happy that I did, because if I had waited for the next year, I think I would have not gotten it. Obviously, they're not waiting for me. So my advice for you is, even if you feel that you're not ready, you're not going to lose anything by trying. So answer to that great opportunity. It might not come again. Finally, be thankful. Be thankful to your family who sacrificed for you, for your friends, for your mentors and advisors, for your ancestors who paved the way before you, for your colleagues, and I want you to be very thankful for AUB. Just know how privileged you are to be in such a place. Everywhere we go, people ask me, where are you from? From Lebanon. Did you graduate from AUB? Because everyone they know that they're super successful is from AUB. So just use these amazing opportunities you have here and be thankful for this amazing place. And speaking of being thankful, I just want to thank you all again, and I'm happy to talk to you later. Thank you.
So we continue with our distinguished alumni, and next up is Ali Sherry, who's an artist working across the film, video, installation, drawing, and performance. He's a filmmaker and a visual artist, which sounds super cool, based in Paris. He received a Bachelor of Graphic Design at the American University of Beirut and a Master's of Performing Art from Das Arts, the Academy of Theater and Dance in Amsterdam. Sherry is the recipient of the Harvard University's Robert Fulton Fellowship in 2016. His work has featured prominent exhibitions, including If You Prick Us, Do We Not Bleed at the National Gallery of London, The Milk of Dreams, the 59th International Art Exhibit at Venice, Minds, Rising Spirits, during the 13th Gwangju Biennale, South Korea in 2020. So his films have been shown in international film festivals, including New Directors, New Films, MoMA, New York. Ali Sherry is an artist in residence at the National Gallery in London, and he was awarded the Silver Lion for promising young participants in the 59th International Art Exhibit in Venice for The Milk of Dreams. Ali, I know you had to push a lot of things out of your schedule to come. We're glad to have you. Please give us a hand for Ali Sherry.
First, I want to say I'm deeply honored and humbled to receive this recognition from my faculty. I want to express my gratitude to the committee for granting me this award. Of course, I want to thank the Dean, Dr. Shhadi, everyone at the Maroon Sam'an Faculty of Engineering and Architecture, my friends and family at the School of Architecture and Design. I want to mention a few names that marked my years while here at AUB in random order and without titles. Layla Musfi, Marwan Ghandour, Huwaida Al-Harisi, Huda Abi Faris, Noha Aranouh, Lina Ghaibe, Muhammad Al-Rawas, Samir Sayagh, and many others. These people taught me the difference between looking and seeing, the difference between aestheticization of politics and the politicization of image. In my work, I've been looking at the construction of historical narratives, especially after a catastrophe or a trauma. From the time of imperial stories, national narratives, subjective narratives, or micro-histories, today is the time of hypo-history, a history stemming from the bottom up, from the bowels, caves, hidden objects buried underground, the past or the possible past, non-anthropocentric, non-directional, a history of the equals. The explosion having occurred, it's a world of dust, scraps, fragments, residues that surrounds us. One can only understand the aftermath of catastrophe through poetry. I am looking for forms of solidarity, the solidarity of the destroyed. Solidarity does not make you stronger or less alone, but it necessitates creation. It is a master of residing in the images of other, considering each element as a comrade of disaster. Resembling, but resembling what? What is my kin? Maybe it's what populates my dreams, all that I'm capable of imagining. The imago is no longer arranged by resemblance or contour, a human resembling a human, a bird, but a creative sensibility. The imago is the body that hosts and accommodates all other bodies, no matter how amorphous and mysterious they might be. The role of imago consists of preserving the memory of the dead. Here it multiplies states of existence. So I was thinking what one talks about when receiving this kind of honor that celebrates their achievement. And I thought that maybe it's a good time to reflect about failure, about what does it mean to leave one's home. And I think like most of the awardees today are not living in Lebanon, I think. So what does it mean to pursue an education, to pursue knowledge away from home? So I wrote a small text. I'm not sure what is to take from it. It's stories about failure, about exile, about leaving home and returning home. Stories about longing and melancholia. It's a short story, bear with me. The greatest epic whose traces have survived to this day is the journey of Gilgamesh for an eternal life. Gilgamesh saw his friend Enkidu, a friend that was formed from clay and water, die in front of his eyes, and suddenly Gilgamesh was afraid to die. Then he embarks on a long perilous journey to the Far East in search of Utnapishtim, the man who with his wife were given immortality after they have survived the flood by building a giant ark. Utnapishtim reveals to Gilgamesh that he too may be able to get eternal life if he succeeds to stay awake after his long journey, not to fall asleep for 6 days and 7 nights in a row. But Gilgamesh barely sat down, he fell in a deep sleep. When he woke up, Gilgamesh asked, "What shall I do, Utnapishtim? Wherever I go, I am carrying death in my steps." Utnapishtim says, "I will reveal to you a mystery and tell you a secret of the gods. There is a plant. If you manage to get hold of it, you will find eternal life." Gilgamesh manages to find the magic plant, and on his way back during his sleep, a snake appears and steals the plant. The story says that Gilgamesh cried all day and all night. He then returned from the end of the world to the city of Uruk. He returned as a mortal among mortals like all of us. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, failure is a journey of return. the return of a human who remains fully human in a world of humans. But there is another story of the origins where the failure is not in the return, but in the departure. God, as it's said in the holy books, God, after creating Adam and Eve, put them in the garden in Eden. A river sprang out of the garden and out of Eden and watered the garden. And God instructed them to eat from all the trees, with the exception of the tree that is in the middle, the ones whose fruit gives knowledge. You will not touch it in order not to die, God said. But we know the rest of the story. The snake, Eve who grabs the fruit and makes Adam taste it, their discovery of their naked bodies, their fear, and the divine sentence that falls, you are dust and you will return to the dust. One of the interpretation of the text, it seems that Adam and Eve were not immortal. The reason why they lived eternally is that in Eden grew the tree of life. Expulsion deprived them access to the tree of life that continually pushed old age. Adam and Eve began a journey in space out of the garden and a journey in time out of eternal life. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, failure leads to return. In the holy books, failure is a departure, an exile. In both cases, the eternal life is a plant. In both cases, snake is the reason of their loss. Leaving is sometimes knowing we cannot come back. The Greek word for return, writes Milan Kundera in his book Ignorance, is nostos. Algos means suffering. So nostalgia is the suffering caused by an unappeased yearning to return. Failure as the end of the journey in the return home. Failure as the beginning of the journey and the departure from home in exile. Gaining knowledge is a sign of our mortality. Thank you.
Moving on to our next distinguished alumni, I'd like to introduce you to Christian Manasseh. Christian is the CEO of Mobius Logic. Christian is a results-driven technology leader with over 20 years of proven CTO, CIO experience across a variety of industries. He has extensive experience in software engineering, team leadership, business development, and technology product commercialization across financial services, manufacturing, and nonprofit. He is the first to use machine learning to quantify fraud in healthcare claims in 2007, and the first to use machine learning to create driver safety profiles from GPS traces in 2009. It seems like we have to thank him for self-driving cars. He is an expert in AI and deep learning technologies involving text-based search, single operator, multiple robot operations, and autonomous robot swarm technology using AI. Christian has invested in and advertised several startup companies, among which are Senseware, Robodub, and ChargeBee. Christian holds a degree from AUB from Civil Environmental Engineering in 1998, master's from MIT, and a systems engineering PhD from UC Berkeley. Please join me in welcoming Christian to the stage.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for this honor and award. It's very nice to be back here. Thank you for the people who nudged me to come, Shadi, Munir, Salah. It's nice to get this nudge to come back home sometimes after being away for so much a period of time. And I'm also humbled that some people still remember who I am after living here since '98 and remember a little bit about what I've done and kept in touch. So thank you very much for that. That's really the biggest award I could get, as you remembering. So in preparing for this talk, I started researching a little bit, looking at previous's, as you all do. And I kind of looked at some of the YouTube videos of previous talks, and many people impart wisdom, like you've heard today, which is I cannot add much to that. And I also feel that people who have wisdom and knowledge and creativity are those who are closest to the problem, right? They're the ones who are tackling the problems day in and day out. And I think there's a lot of that going on here at AUB that I feel kind of humbled to come here and impart wisdom to you, where I'm in probably a more receiving side today and this week. So I came here with the intention, as I usually come to AUB as a student, to learn. And so I'm expecting more knowledge transfer that way to this way, as opposed from here to there. So please come and approach, and let's discuss lots of things that you have on your mind in terms of solutions, opportunities in this country. So for the remaining of my talk, I kind of wanted to prime the discussion so that you don't feel awkward approaching me and talking. So that way, you know what interests me, I guess, especially in the last few years. I've been heavily involved in AI and machine learning, primarily on the research side. We are taking, at Mobius Logic, we're taking AI to the next level. We're talking about something called artificial general intelligence, and that's where we're starting to build models that you might not see until the next 5 years from now. So just think of where ChatGPT was 5 or 6 years ago. That's where we are today with the next generation of models. So that is of great interest to me if you want to talk about where applications in that might be in the next few years. And the one thing I want to kind of circle back into this, I'm a civil engineer. By DNA is civil engineering. And many times is what is a civil engineer doing in an AI community, right? And the story I'd like to tell is a few years back, that's in 2010, 2009, before the iPhone was released, before Google Maps was something big that everybody knew about. There was this guy called Warren Haven. This guy made his money by betting on bandwidth and spectrum in the FCC community in the US, right? So he would purchase Wi-Fi bandwidth and he would lease it to other people who need to use that bandwidth. So he approached the civil engineering department at UC Berkeley, where I was doing my PhD, and he kind of said, I need you guys to figure out a way to make use of this bandwidth to improve location-based services and improve on the GPS constellation that we have. And we're sitting there. I was one of the students there, and I said, why did you come to us? Why did you come to the civil engineers to do this? Why don't you go to the EECS department or communications department? And his response was very, very interesting, that this technology, I'm sure the ECS will build a better gadget. They'll make this the best way possible, but you guys are going to make it happen, put in society. You're going to make this enter society. And I think the role, I mean, here I'm a bit biased to the civil engineering community, of course, but I think I got that from AUB in the sense that the engineer at AUB, whether it's a civil or other engineer, has this ability to see the societal impact of what they're building and the tools that they're using. And I think AI and machine learning has matured enough as a tool today that we can start thinking about it as a tool to improve society, right? Not necessarily just as a one-end purpose tool, as we see in so many of these models that are proliferating right now, but how do we improve society at large with these tools? And I think civil engineering in particular, but engineering as a whole has a great say in this, and not just data science and math and mathematicians and the people that are usually the people who are dealing with AI and machine learning today at the research level, right? So from that perspective, I welcome the discussion with anybody who's interested. And the two more things I want to add as to why I think AUB and particularly this department can play an important role in this, and that echoes the optimism message that we heard today from the president and the dean, and the struggle that faces the country and AUB in general. There's always this opportunity, right? If there's no problem, then there's no opportunity. And the fact that you are the proximity to the problem, the more the proximity to the problem is, the higher the. Am I supposed to do something? The higher the chances of innovation and opportunity. So I think AUB is at the cusp of, at the center of that, by being in Lebanon, by being in Beirut. And you guys, I think, will end up knowing more about the problem, the details of the problems, to offer solutions that work, versus somebody like me who's living 3,000 miles away, and my experience of the problem is very theoretical. And I'm more looking at the problem from a preventative measure and not from a reactive solution type of method. So that's number one. Number two, why I feel this is a good place to start is that you are in a community that is rich with faculty and members that have shown generation after generation to produce people that excel in whatever they do. I mean, the distinguished awardees today and the previous years are evidence of that, that we're not just creating somebody, or you guys are not just creating somebody who has the skill set, but it's also somebody who has the mindset to solve problems in any environment that they're put in, no matter how diverse it is from what they were taught here. And that is a tribute to the professors and faculty that exist here. And so if you're a student here, take advantage of that, and don't lose the connection or the networking that you could establish with a professor here, because anything I've done has been nudged and pushed by people here. And I thank you all for that. And thank you again. Thanks.
The next distinguished alumni is actually one of the young distinguished alumni. Yara Baini is a management consultant at the Boston Consulting Group in Dubai, where she focuses on energy and climate sustainability and works with clients from all over the MENA region on topics ranging from strategy development to M&A support. She has an MBA from Wharton School, majoring in finance and business analytics, and a master's in public administration from Harvard Kennedy School, with a focus on international relations. During her time at HKS, she conducted research on multiple topics, including the geopolitics of the energy transition, the role of gas in the energy transition, and the readiness of the US grid to decarbonize. She has interned at Morgan Stanley in the Project Financial Group in New York and at the International Energy Agency in the Energy Supply and Investment Outlook teams in Paris. Yara obtained her BA in chemical engineering with a minor in philosophy from AUB in 2016. In her free time, she enjoys diving. She's into geopolitics, reading a good book, and playing sports and traveling around. Please join me in welcoming Yara to the stage.
It's such a pleasure and honor for me to be here. The last time I was in this building was 7 years ago, doing my last final in my chemical engineering degree. And I would have never thought that the next time I would be visiting this building would be to get this award. So I'm really very honored. Thank you all, and especially the chemical engineering department. Similar to Aline, I think I wanted more to target students in my speech, because when we meet successful people, we tend to feel overwhelmed and we get imposter syndrome that we'll never be as good as they are. And I'm here to debunk this myth that being successful does not necessarily mean that we have everything figured out and we have a career plan knowing exactly what we want to focus on. But a lot of success lies in a path of discovery, and a lot of success lies in following one's interest, irrespective of how far apart they are from each other. And so the theme of my journey, since I graduated from AUB, is very similar to the theme of my journey at AUB, which is a range of interests. I decided to study chemical engineering because of the breadth of work topics that one can work on after graduation. And when I was deciding what to do after I finished, everything was on the table: research, consulting, manufacturing. I was even considering a master's in philosophy because I did a minor in philosophy, and I really discussed it with professors here. And that's the beauty of AUB, because it provides you with a platform to nurture many interests and try them out and decide what you want to do. As mentioned by Masoud, I eventually went into consulting. I worked at the Boston Consulting Group. I worked on many topics which did fulfill my variety of interests. But most importantly, after 3 years at BCG, it confirmed that my passion is for the energy industry. And this is what I wanted to focus on. Energy is a fascinating topic. It is the backbone of our world and our economy, and at the same time, it might be the cause why we will become extinct because of global warming. There's a lot of ambivalence in this topic, which is what attracted me to it, and I thought there is a lot of innovation and problem solving needed in the next couple of decades to reach a sustainable energy industry. It is with that in mind that I started my graduate studies in the US in 2019, doing my MBA and MPA, again, business and policy. And I did a bunch of stuff. I mean, I interned at Morgan Stanley, and I thought that project finance is my dream job. It was the intersection of energy and finance, and both are topics I'm interested in, I'm passionate about, until I actually started my internship, and I was exposed to the toxicity and sexism of the finance industry, which is mind-blowing to me in 2023 and in one of the most woke cities in the world. So I decided not to do that. I tried some policy-related work at the IEA. I did research. I worked on a book with some of the energy giants at Harvard. All of that to say that I know I'm interested in energy, but I don't know what I'm interested in yet. And this is okay, and I'm at peace with it, and I find a lot of joy in trying to explore what my interests are and trying to look at anything and everything that might interest me. And I have a strong belief that at the intersection of all these interests lies something that is very worth the time and effort to do that. I finished my graduate studies last year. I'm back at BCG now, and I'm working at the intersection of energy and climate and sustainability. And I decided to come back to the region because I think it's a very crucial one to reach a successful energy transition globally. I will quickly end with a couple of thoughts on the energy transition. And I think this is very important to me because I had a short but diverse experience, and I'm a young woman, and I think both youth and women are groups that are really marginalized and not very engaged in the conversation on energy. I'd like to share my three very quick points. The first one is that finding a sustainable solution for the future energy industry should not compromise today's energy security. And I think the current state of the oil markets is just that there was a lack of investment in the last couple of years. Without enough investment, there wasn't enough investment in the traditional energy sources in the past couple of years, and not enough in the renewable energy sources, and this is why now we have high prices and high volatility, and we should curb that. The second point is that we should engage traditional energy players in our fight against climate change, because keeping them away will delay these efforts and will compromise the efficiency of the efforts. I think the UAE hosting the COP28 this year is a great example, and we should do more of that. My third point is that a successful energy transition, and I think this is very important for our generation, is an inclusive energy transition. It should include industrialized countries and developing countries, right-wing and left-wing, rich, poor, everyone really, races and genders. And an inclusive energy transition will save more privileged people at the expense of less privileged people, which will exacerbate current inequality we have in our world. Finally, and this is more on life than the energy industry, there is no life path or career path that is the right one. If you have an unconventional path, it doesn't mean that you are set for failure. I came to AUB from a small village in small Shuf. I was the only one from my school who came here. I was so overwhelmed by how big AUB was and how good the people were. I failed Math 201 in my first semester, but that didn't stop me. I think with time I learned to embrace my unconventionalities and build on them to use them to my advantage. So write your own story. Embrace your uniqueness, be curious about the world, and most importantly, never be scared to follow your passions. Thank you very much.
Last but not least, our next distinguished alumni is Aram Krajian. Aram happens to be the Director of Research and Innovation at Jaguar and Land Rover. So if you want some, maybe some insight on the next cool things in Formula One in the Jaguar team, maybe Aram is the right person to talk to. As I said, Aram is the Director of Research and Innovation at Jaguar Land Rover. He is focused on heading the Global Research Department, spearheading cutting-edge research collaboration with the tech industry, government, regulators, and academia. as well as product design, innovation, and strategy, helping to drive the latest technologies and innovation into their product and services. Aram also serves as a visiting professor in technology innovation at King's College in London. Aram has a BE in engineering and mechanical engineering at AUB. He has an MSc in production system engineering from RWTH Ocean University and MBA in general management from INSEAD. Please join me in welcoming Aram to the stage.
Welcome to ME 301 lecture, Engineering and Society. I've only got 3 slides, so this shouldn't take long. First of all, I want to thank Dean Shahade, but also the nominating committee for recognizing me. I'm really grateful and honored to be here. I also want to thank my family, my father, my wife, but also the wider AUB community for keeping me in mind and staying connected with me. Coming here, I was thinking about what would be relevant for the audience, the group, and I thought one thing that engineers do, and building on some of the conversations earlier, was that whatever we come up with, solutions we come up with, we are optimistic because we can always find solutions, but those solutions have an impact on society. And I wanted to discuss with you, but also share some ideas and get some insights on a few of these examples. I also wanted to talk about the impact that AUB has on us as engineers and the impact that it's had on me personally. As an example, after finishing AUB, when I went to Aachen to do my master's, immediately it was clear that the foundations that AUB gave me were solid. I knew for a fact that I could follow, I could be ahead of all the other international students because the topics we had covered, the details we were given were fundamentals for not just learning, but fundamentals for life as well. So thinking about engineering and society, I want to maybe just ask the audience to read this and tell me what you think. What is this about? Any ideas? Anyone? What was that? Plastic, yes. And you probably know Bakeland, who invented plastic in 1907. It was probably the most amazing invention that our planet had seen at the time because it was the solution for a lot of the world's problems. And sadly today, it's the problem to a lot of the environmental challenges we've got. And so as engineers, we've engineered this amazing material, which was one of the biggest inventions of our time. But today, we also need to engineer solutions to take that plastic out, to find ways of recycling it, to make sure that it doesn't harm society, it doesn't harm the environment. I want to look at another example, and I don't know if you've seen some of these around campus, if you have them. Isn't it great that we're making sure that we recycle batteries because they're really bad for the environment, right? Right? But at the same time, we've engineered the future of propulsion, the future of transportation, and we're moving from petrol cars to electric vehicles. But electric vehicles at the moment have 40,000 of these small batteries that we're trying to collect in those small boxes so that we don't throw them in the bin. So what's going to happen to all these batteries in the future when we have millions and potentially hundreds of millions of vehicles, battery electric vehicles on the roads that might end up in the oceans, that might end up in dumps? So as engineers, we need to be also thinking about recycling. And you probably know we still haven't really figured out how to recycle the batteries, fully recycle them, because once the anode and the cathode are fully spent, it's very difficult to put in the energy to recover all the individual metals that go into them. So there's a lot of work to be done to figure that out. And then, obviously, Christian has a lot more knowledge than I do, but if we think about AI because it's the relevant topic of the day with ChatGPT and other things, we probably look at AI and say, oh, that's adorable, the funny robot can do monkey tricks, and then suddenly we have ChatGPT. And of course, ChatGPT is also pretty basic and pretty dumb because it's ultimately just a tool that's probabilistically guessing what the next best word should be so that it finds the next best sentence. It doesn't really understand what it's reading. It doesn't really know what it needs to do. But these things are exponential, and very quickly we're going to be faced with a situation where suddenly, in 5 years' time, in 20 years' time, all of this is going to become very smart. And as one of the books I've read previously, a couple of years ago from Mo Godat, Scary Smart, where he predicts that by 2049, artificial intelligence might be 1 billion times more intelligent than humans. Whether we believe that or not, that's only in 27 years, 26 years, probably the same amount of time roughly since I graduated from here about 20 years ago. So some of you in the room in that same time frame will have to figure out what to do with superintelligence. And recently, a lot of the CEOs have been talking about this. And for example, the CEO of Microsoft said, we can't allow to have runaway AI. Many people are trying to figure out, more particularly if you've read the book, he talks about how we need to empathize with AI and empathize with robots and machines because they are reading everything we're saying. They're probably listening to this speech today, and in 30 years' time, they're going to judge humans based on what we've said and what we've done. So that's maybe one way of thinking about it, but definitely a lot more for engineers to figure out. I want to finish on a positive note, and while I know many of you are using ChatGPT at the moment without worrying about these things, maybe doing some of your homework, I don't know, is that allowed at AUB? But I also use it quite often for many things, and one of the things ChatGPT is also good at is telling jokes. So turns out that it knows about engineering jokes as well. So two antennas meet on a roof, they fall in love, and they get married. The wedding isn't much, but the reception is excellent. Thank you very much, and have a fantastic day.